40s and the fact that so many people in various Republican and Democratic administrations came up through Goldman Sachs. But, I mean, is that enough to explain why they get the privilege? Is that, or do they know things about the government? Are there people within Goldman Sachs that somehow are torquing, the people, the power brokers who are deciding to whom the checks are going to be written?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. And when you see the revolving door that we have between Wall Street and Washington today, which I don't think has ever been as powerful as it is today, Goldman is the most connected. I think probably one of the reasons why is that Goldman has been very financially successful, and many people from Goldman have gone into government work because they've made tremendous amounts of money and essentially don't have to work anymore. And because there's so many of them working in and with the government, it gives them a leg up on other companies that would pretend to do the same thing.
All right. Let's talk about the bonus structure thing. I mean, you said you had a brokerage house for years that you ran, right? That you did this for 18 years and helped people in their financial planning. At some point, when does it turn into some sort of Ponzi scheme, or when does it turn into a Bernie Madoff-like situation that so many people at the top are making all these huge gobs of money and these big giant bonuses, right, that they hand out at companies like Goldman Sachs? If they're making that much money, shouldn't that money go back to the people who are the investors so that they're the ones that are making more of the money, instead of a small return for the investors and a large return for the people at the top?
Well, you're absolutely right, and your take on it is perfect. And I don't know why the shareholders don't howl more, but just recently Goldman earned $2.3 billion, and they paid out $4.8 billion in bonuses, and part of that money came from the $10 billion in TARP funding that they received. Now, they weren't the only ones, but that just gives you an example of this tremendous amount of money that flows to these, what used to be called partners, now they're public shareholders. And you're right. The question arises, when is enough enough? I mean, some of these people are taking home $500 million a year, and that is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, it just doesn't. And then the claim is, well, if they didn't pay them, these people would leave, and that they're so special. But it doesn't seem like it requires that special a talent to be able to make a profit under the conditions that exist right now for something like Goldman Sachs. I mean, it doesn't seem that hard. I mean, it doesn't seem like these are people who are wizards or have unique knowledge.
Well, they do have unique knowledge, but they're not wizards. There's many other people on Wall Street who are equally as bright, but this program that they have, they call it black box trading, and it makes up 73% of all the trades in the New York Stock Exchange. So if you're in front and you're front-running orders all the time, you have guaranteed profits which come out of a box.
Right.
And so they're racing ahead, slightly ahead of others, and great leads.
But you don't have to be that bright. If only 20% of the trades are being actually done by humans.
That's
right?
I mean, well, this was borne out. I don't know if you saw the interchange in the House committee investigation into the relationship between Merrill Lynch and Bank of America, but Representative Stern of Florida and Marge Kaptur both interrogated, if you may, the former Secretary of the Treasury, and that was Henry Paulson. And he was very, very uncomfortable. His body English was very bad. And he was on the edge of being terrified that the people were finding out what they did and exactly what the Treasury Department did under the former CEO of Goldman Sachs was to make sure that Goldman Sachs, with government money, taxpayer funds, was well taken care of. But I must say as well, Wall Street, banking, and several insurance companies were well taken care of as well. So their thought process is, let's take care of our guys at the top of the financial structure who created this monstrosity in the first place. Let's take care of them, and the heck with the American public.
Okay, but now I'm going to play devil's advocate. Somehow that there must be some sort of logic to this that works. That somehow, if Goldman Sachs did go down, if these other trading companies went down, our economy truly would tank. Would that be fair to say?
No, it's not fair to say. I think that were they to go down, it would be certainly detrimental. But if you look at the whole economic structure and what they've done to it via the financial aspects of it, you'll find that they've run roughshod over the U.S. and world economy, for that matter. And what they've done is they pull the underpinnings of finance out from underneath the whole edifice. And they did that by using leverage. Now, in fractional banking, the banks will usually lend out 8 to 10 times their asset base or their savings base. What these banks have been doing, not only in the United States but in Europe as well, they've been lending out anywhere between 40 and 70%, or 40 and 70 times the amount of money that they have on deposit. In other words, they turned this thing known as the stock market and finance into a giant casino.
Right.
And that's really where the problem lies.
When wasn't it a casino? I mean, you go back to...
When they were only using 8 times or 10 times leverage, which historically the markets in the financial aspects have been able to handle. But when you get everybody doing 50 times, it's wild, absolutely crazy.
We're talking with Bob Chapman, international forecaster. So I'll get back to that because there's some other things about that I'm still curious about. But so are they sound now, at least? Is Goldman Sachs, I mean, they're making all this extra money. They've got TARP money. We don't have to worry about them going down. Are any of these financial giants on Wall Street, are they any of them in trouble anymore?
Oh, yes, they are.
How can they still be in trouble?
What's that?
How can they still be in trouble?
Well, it's pretty simple because they changed the FASB rules, and that's the Financial Accounting Association rules. And instead of marking their securities to market, they marked them to model. And the difference between the two is this. You have a bond that's trading, and it's trading at par, which is $1,000. And you have it in your portfolio. So it's pretty easy to mark that bond to the market every day, and at the end of each day, you know exactly what your assets are worth. That's a simple part of it. And there's a lot of securities out there that are seldom traded and are worth much less than the mark-to-market that's being put against them. So what the Financial Accounting Board did is said, we're going to change the rules through political pressure, that is, and enormous pressure from Wall Street. And they went to mark-to-model, which means when you mark a security to the market, it can be anything you want it to be. In other words, the bond might be worth $300, but you can put it on the books at $800, and the government and the SEC looks the other way, so that you can make your balance sheet look nice and profitable, or
and hand out big bonuses. You can go at the end
and hand out big bonuses. And so what we're living here is a bogus lie, and these balance sheets that they're talking about really don't exist in the state that they do. Because they're marking to model, and it's in reality. It's a Ponzi scheme.
Well, see, that's what I used that word earlier, because it seemed like none of these people are that far off from Bernie Madoff.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
that they all depend on getting new investors to come in and to talk about their credibility and how they are, how financially sound they are, and to do all of that. But in reality, they're not. Then and only they know how unstable they are.
That's correct. And when they need some more juice, so to speak, they pick up the phone and they get a hold of Mr. Geithner, who used to work for the Federal Reserve in New York City, and then he worked for Goldman Sachs, and he also worked for the United States government before that, and they're all buddies.
Right.
They'll say, gee, Timothy, we're getting a little wobbly over here between you and I think we should have another TARP program. I think we're going to need maybe